say it's a big difference. When I was 26, I would have jumped up from this side, but when you're 41, you go from the other side. It's not worth the risk reward, and we'll talk about some of that today as Evan gets set up. We'll get started. So I want to thank Brandon for that kind introduction. And I plan a lot of meetings myself. And I know all the hours, stress, and hard work, how many emails that go into making this day possible. And it's just really awesome you guys are doing this as dental students, and you guys should all give him and his team a round of applause, because that's not easy to do. Also, I did something I didn't do as a dental student last night, is I showed up at the social on time as a 41-year-old, and then I think by the time everyone got there, I had left, so it was an aggressive move, but I appreciate everyone being mildly hungover for the lecture, because, when you're mildly hungover, I don't mind that. So yesterday, Evan and I flew in, and we put the Dental Nachos logo inside of the, as we descended into Nebraska here to make our mark. I thought that was an interesting crop circle. So, to start off, 2 months ago, it was 5 a.m. on a Sunday morning. I had been up for 22 hours straight, and I was terrified. I would like you all to think about a time in your life when you were really, really scared, worried about what would happen next. How do we not freak out in those situations? What gets us through to the next thing? And to me, there's three components: training, preparation, and timing. A lot of people think of timing as luck. Part of that's true, but I've noticed over 16 years as a dentist and 41 years as a human being, the more training you do, the more preparation you do, the better timing that you're going to have. So one goal I have today, this morning, is to help you guys not freak out about the next phase in your dental career. Freaking out is not super useful. We all do it. Sometimes we do it on the inside part of our bodies, like me at 5 a.m. at that time. I'll tell you about that. Sometimes you do it on the outside part of your body, like when your crown doesn't fit or your wax up gets stepped on, or all the things that just seem to continue on in the dental school world. And my other goal this morning for 75 minutes is to help you be a happier dental student, a happier dentist when you get there, and most of all, a happier person. And that one is tougher because I do a lot of lectures. I'm really happy to talk to dentists who are, some of you guys are any first years here? Great, so you're minus 3 years away from being a dentist. And I don't know if Justin Moody, who get to hear from next, is here next. I can maybe get on him because I think he's older than me. I'm 16 years out. So I say, what is happiness? And it's kind of a weird question, and these are the things I've gotten over the years. Family and friends. Everyone says that because they just want to sound like a nice person. But then when I tell them to tell me that on Thanksgiving, when Uncle Joe brings up politics, your cousin Troy won't give up the remote, and tell me how happy your family and friends make you then. And people say inner peace because they just want to say something to make you go away, inner peace, but that sounds like a little boring. I think inner peace is like, can everyone just leave me alone? Long walks on the beach, the sand could be hot. Sometimes my wife and I, when we put the kids aside, we'll go for a long walk on the beach. 2 minutes in, we're like, why did we decide to do this? We should just go get margaritas. And then, people always say time to myself. People can get on my nerves. That's something we'll talk about as a theme. What's interesting is you guys are surrounded by a lot of your peers now, which is great. I mean, even in dental school, I love that. I have lifelong friends that I still talk to and go to conferences with, and that part's awesome. But when you go into the quote-unquote real world of dentistry, all of your friends kind of go away from a day-to-day basis. And that's really difficult, actually, because now you're sort of either, misery loves company, where you're saying, we both failed this thing, hooray, let's get wine, or, we both did great on this thing. But, what if you're just in your own office, and sometimes you can be surrounded by people as a dentist, but feel very lonely. And it's a weird experience for people who haven't been there yet. So what is happiness? So, I have this organization, Dental Nachos. I have 2 offices. I have my family life. So I think this is happiness. Happiness is definitely not being annoyed. Because if I said, what makes you annoyed? Everyone will chime in with that. My friend's running late, my crown not fitting, my patient canceling because their cat died again. It's like cats have 9 lives. Your cat's died 10 times, Mrs. Smith. Can we just get your denture in? So happiness is not being annoyed. So how can you be less annoyed each day in your life, whether it's personally or professionally, or as you go through as a dental student. So those are kind of our two goals over the next 75 minutes, help you guys not freak out and be happier. Because the life of a dentist, and you guys have small human beings in your life, it's a little bit like co-owning a human being, because sometimes you're happy. This is Daphne when she is 1. So our family dog Bronx on ours, she comes, she's happy, and that's what you feel like as a dentist. And then sometimes you feel like this. She doesn't want to get in a scale. I don't blame her. I don't want to get in a scale either. So I get it. The hard part about being a dentist is that this happens to you, and you'll see this a little bit, but you guys see maybe 2 or 3 patients a day. But when you're in the real world dentistry, sometimes you see 15, 16, 17, 18 human beings in one day for whatever reason, and this roller coaster happens at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., and it's very difficult on you, and no one really teaches you about this. In most other careers and professions, I think you have like either sort of a steady flight day, a bumpy flight, some small bumps, but you're always on stage in dentistry, and that's just not an easy thing to do. So last year I had the awesome experience of speaking at Mark Costa's Dental Success Summit. That's in March this year. I'm going to be there again. That was a great experience. It was like great for dental students. I highly recommend you going. It's kind of all business oriented. Mark's a great guy. So we flew out there, and while I was lecturing, Daphne was at the Butterfly Garden at 3 years old. Just to continue, having a 3-year-old is a lot like being a dentist. And then on the way home, I'm like, you can't eat all the goldfish on the first minute of our 6-hour flight. And that's how she looked at me. So this is the feeling you feel inside, right? I mean, this is how you feel. Sometimes you feel like you're at a Butterfly Garden. Brandon organizes free drinks and food. You're like, this is great. I always like when you go to an open bar, you're not yourself at all. Because if you were yourself, you would order like the house red wine or beer. When you go to an open bar, you're like, could someone tell me what the most expensive thing is here to drink? I don't even know if I like scotch, but I'm going to drink it because it's $19 each, right? So we'll talk about that today. A little bit about me and what I do, how Dental Nachos came to be. I never expected it to be something like this, what it is today. I thought there would be a few hundred people on it talking about implants and practice management. What's normal for you guys to have this, and I was actually saying this to some nice students last night, is, I don't like when older generations like I had to walk uphill to school both ways and you have it so easy, because I don't mean that, because actually there's a lot of challenges, but there is a fortunate part that you have this interconnectedness through the dental Facebook groups and Instagram, which I just did not have. So when in 2003, if I had a question about a crown, I could ask like 5 people through a phone call. If they didn't know, I'm like, I guess it's just I'll have to figure it out on my own. So now it's definitely, we'll talk about this, a double-edged sword, catch-22, to get information from all just different places in the world. But I just think it's cool that, we have this. So that Dental Nachos is kind of me, and I also really do love nachos. I worked at a Mexican restaurant when I was 19, and they just gave you free nachos the whole time. That's a real story. So I just developed this sort of like superpowered dropped in a vat of nacho cheese. I don't know if that's superpower or not, but if it is, I would have it. But the nacho plate is I do these variety of things, which Brandon had talked about. And now we're getting back to like, why was I terrified 2 months ago at 5 a.m. after being up for 22 hours straight? So part of this is going to start with this. Ingredient number 1, so we have 11 ingredients. One thing I can tell you guys is to buy the Checklist Manifesto. Amazing book. I've read it. It's fantastic. Everyone should read it as a person and dentist. So if there's 2 books I would tell you to buy or listen to, I think it's great to I used to read a lot of books, and now I can't read, but I definitely can walk around and listen to things, and there's AirPod things like a crazy person. So you're on the street just talking to yourself. If you think about that, when people were texting a lot, people found it fairly obnoxious, right? Now just everyone's texting all the time. So I don't know, does anyone have AirPods like me out there? They're just awesome inventions. And now it's weird though, I'll be like walking down the center city, it's like in Center City, Philadelphia, and someone would give me a weird look. I'm just talking to someone in my head, but that'll become normal. So as we move forward in life, things that were not normal become very normal. So one of my ingredients, Checklist Manifesto's great book, is always be managing expectations. So if you spend a lot of time with me, you'll hear me say this all the time. So here is Mrs. Nacho. You can tell she is pregnant, and our baby, it is running late. So our first human was not running late. This baby's running late, so we walked around. And you can't see this sign. I gotta tell you, but I just love signs, because when they put up a sign, that means something happened where you needed a sign. And this one says, "No dogs or people allowed in the fountain behind Mrs. Nacho." And I love that managing of expectations, because if you put up a sign, certain people are just going to not do the wrong thing because of the sign. Not everybody, but I just you could tell, this is Washington Square Park in Philadelphia. It's actually a pretty cool, beautiful park from when Washington Time's there. It is a giant graveyard underneath. Try not to think of that part. But from all the Revolutionary War soldiers. But it's a cool park. But this is a new sign, right? They're we have way too many dogs and people in the fountain. So we got to manage everyone's expectations. So for Mrs. Nacho, we had, and this goes into if you're taking it, it's one of my favorite shows is Scrubs. I don't know if anyone's seen that show with Zach Braff. That's life. I love it. Everyone's talking inside their head at all times. Tonight, you'll be at the costume party. I don't know if I'm making it to the costume party. Unless the outfit is exhausted 41-year-old dad, that's all I can muster up for the night. But this is going to happen tonight. One of you is going to be seeing someone from another district, and you'll see them with their costume. In your head, you'll be I cannot believe that person wore that. That is a ridiculous costume. It could either be too much clothes or too little clothes. In your head, I can't believe that person decided to wear it. Hey, Bill, how's it going? Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to hang out with you. And that's life. Scrubs is life. So you do not have to say everything in your mind at all times. You remember one thing from this talk, that is a good one. Because when we were having our second human being, everyone told my wife, Mary, that the second child was going to just fly out of her like some sort of weird movie, because our first human being 4 years ago. So if anyone wants to know what happens, first of all, being a dad is the best, and being married and actually being 41 years old is great. I was 36 there, and this is what 36-year-olds look like before they have a child. This is the after 4 years later. But our first co-produced human being, Daphne, we went to this hippie birth class, and we're okay, what's birth like? If you ever go to hippie birth class, they love birth. They never want it to end. They're it's going to take a day. You can play games, talk to each other, and these were my expectations, that birth was a day. So my wife was how long are these contractions? Had her iPhone out. Apparently, my wife is tougher than I thought, because at 8 p.m., she's I think it's getting really serious. And my brother, who's a 35-year-old single guy now, we were going to walk to the hospital, and we had to have him drive us. And my wife is screaming in the car, and all I'm thinking of is I hope we don't have this baby on the street, because I cannot tell this story for the rest of my life. Because whenever you have a street baby, something went wrong, right? Don't have a street baby. Whatever you do, get to the hospital, sit. I don't like to be yelled at in general, so they had told me when I went to the hospital, I'm actually a very good rule follower, don't go too early, they might send you home. And that was bad expectation management for me, because we almost had a street baby. So we got dropped off at 8:15, and Daphne was here. This is what she's here at 8:52. So we were on the street, and 30 minutes later she was here. So all the nurses were don't tell your friends about this. It's never happened. You're so lucky. Baby just flies out of you. So getting back to the story about how to get through being terrified and how to get through these freak out things. So we were just expecting the baby to fly out. So then the baby's a couple days late. First of all, they should not give a birth date, by the way. I could change all systems. You give a birth a week, right? Because as soon as you miss the birth, the day that you're supposed to deliver, you feel like something's wrong. And now we're walking around. Is everything okay? So then we get to the hospital for our next human being, and things are a little bit different. Okay, so I'll tell you about that terrified part in a minute. But managing expectations, back to dentistry, life and dentistry is never tell a patient how many fillings you're going to do, ever. Because when you do this, you just set yourself up to make them upset. So you might be a nice person. I've done this many times. Everything that I've said that I'm going to tell you is things that I've made errors in my own life. So you're going to say, okay, we're going to do 3 fillings, Mrs. Smith. And after the first filling, you're going to be I cannot take looking at Mrs. Smith's face anymore. I need to get her out of the chair. But I told her I'm going to do 3 fillings, so I'll just rush through them. So we always say things I'm going to start with 1 filling. We'll see how we both do, Mrs. Smith. And then after that, let's make the next best decision. Make the best decision in the moment is one of my catchphrases for the office. And no one tells you these things. So they'll tell you to just tell someone you're going to do 4 fillings. And fillings, general dentistry is full contact arts and crafts on somebody. Have you ever done an arts and crafts project? Sometimes it does not go as well as expected. Filling gets bigger, patient won't open. Does anyone use the a Garrison or Paladin or Class 2 system out there with the little lima beam bands? So you put those things in, one crinkles, it breaks, then there's no ring. You go to put the ring on, it flies across the room. The patient's was that important? You're not really, it's not important, right? Pick it up, right? I would love to make soundproof floors, because as soon as people hear something drop, they're is that, did we need that? I'm no, just your crown, but it's fine. We don't need it. Don't tell a patient you're going to go see a person for a hygiene check. I mean, this happens at like open bars and weddings all the time. So it's interesting because like you're talking to somebody and you're like, how do I get out of this conversation? This person's never like stopping talking, and I was here for the free gin and tonics. But how do I extract myself gracefully? And that's going to happen to you all day long if you're a general dentist. I mean, we don't have like 8 hours for the whole Paul Goodman life philosophy on dentistry. But one of the best parts of being a specialist, just any specialist except a periodontist and a prosthodontist. Just a great part, no hygiene checks. None. Because imagine if you were doing something, like they never go to a surgeon in the operating room who's taking out a gallbladder, like, hey, could you go out in the waiting room? Someone has a question about last week. So when you do hygiene checks, which you probably don't do in dental school, that's what you do all the time. And it's very difficult on your brain to switch gears. It's also like you're working on somebody, and you're just like, hold on, I'm going to just stop working on you. What do you say? So I just say, hey, could you take a jaw break for a little bit? It's not a lie. If you take a jaw break, you sit here, close your mouth, rest your jaw. I'm going to be back. I mean, as patients get to know you, this is one of the hard parts about dentistry is it's just like you guys here. So you guys, I heard all the woo-hooing with like which district you're in. So I see it's like a Game of Thrones situation where you're all from different things, but you're coming together to be friends here. I get it. But like, you know, when you're with your crew from District 5, is that one of them? I don't know. But District 5, you're relaxed mentally because you know them, you know their story. But then when you go meet somebody new, you put on your new person face, which is not your regular person face. You're like, oh, hey, how's it going? How's your life? That's a good idea, right? This is not what you say to your friends. So when you talk to hygiene patients, you got to be ready to put on your new person face sometimes. And if you were taking any notes, one of the biggest reasons new dentists are slow in an office, because I have 3 new associates, has nothing to do with their crown prepping skills. It has to do with the fact that they're always seeing new patients all day long when you get to an office. And it's just really difficult. Like, you would not want to hang out with 8 new friends. Like, you might not like all your 8 current friends, but you can manage their annoyances. Like, Betty's always going to show up late. Just tell her 20 minutes ahead of time, and maybe she'll be 30 minutes late. But if you just had 8 new friends, so that part is difficult. For hygiene check, and most of all, this is really critical, because this happens at restaurants. So I worked in the restaurant industry for 10 years. It's how I got to know a lot of this stuff. Really, really great experience. Worked at a diner, worked at a corporate place, worked at fine dining. So I got a chance to work in like what you might think is DMO, PPO, and fee-for-service of the restaurant industry. And when you go to a restaurant and you have a reservation and it's at 8 o'clock and you're not seated at 8:02, you're ready to just freak out. You're like, what's going on there? I don't know, why are they late? But you know why they're late, right? You're the person that makes them late when you had the 6 p.m. reservation, and you just don't get up out of your restaurant table because you want to sit there and still talk with your friends. So managing time is not easy when you're not making things. You're working on people. So just give people a heads up. Hey, heads up, Mrs. Smith. We're going to seat you about 5 minutes late, and if it's over 10 minutes, they get a prize. So everybody likes prizes, okay? It doesn't matter what age you are. You have prizes, and especially humans, they love this, free prizes, okay? They just love those. So we buy a lot of Starbucks gift cards, and we just say, hey, Mrs. Smith, at the end, we're sorry that we saved you a little bit late. Here's Starbucks gift card. And then they say, oh, no, you don't have to give it to me. They take it anyway, but, you don't have to give it to me. But, it's like when people want to pay for the check. Like, you don't have to. Just keep going. Keep your credit card out. But that just shows that you care. So you have to have systems, and we're going to talk about that next, and we're going to talk about where we get to. So back to being terrified. Started like a lot of days do for me on Saturdays. I was lecturing about implants 3 blocks from my house at Industrious. This is like my lecture space here that I rent. So it was 3 days after Drew was awesome, because I was like, man, I don't want to cancel my implant lecture, but I don't know if the baby's going to come. So I might as well be at the implant lecture, but people are really going to give me grief if I miss taking my wife to the hospital because I'm ranting about implants and teaching people how to do hands-on implants. So I managed this person's expectations. It was my wife. I said, you have to come with me. And you have to sit there in case we have the street baby. Because remember, I'm thinking we're having a street baby. And that's my expectations, that we're having this street baby. So she sat there with me. So I started at 7 a.m. in the morning. I lecture all day. I love doing that. There's more energy used in lecturing than people think. So I was rewarding myself with parenting medicine. So we went and had a few drinks. Then we went and saw this movie, Crazy Rich Asians, which was a good movie. I don't know, it was very exciting. So apparently when we leave Crazy Rich Asians, that is us at Crazy Rich Asians, 2 parents waiting for a second human. My wife's like, I think I feel something. I'm like, we're going now. Like, no street baby this time. So we go to the hospital, and there's like just different stages in this birth process, and it's early, but even that doctor was like, well, you had the quick baby last time, we're going to keep you. So now it's midnight, I'm still up. They bring in the guy for the epidural, nice guy. He looked like he was like 15. So one of the things that you guys have to deal with is when people are like, are you 23? You're like, no, 24. But anyway, we brought him in. My wife and I are very different personalities. So she gets the epidural. First one, no epidural, by the way, because we had, the baby just flew out. Guy comes in, and the epidural does not work. I understand. I mean, we could give like blocks to people. So I'm like, no problem, buddy. Try again. I support it. My wife, not quite as understanding. So she comes again, gives her more, because like you know what happens when you don't make a patient numb. Like, I'll show you numb. You're not going to feel your face till next week. Does it again, and now we're exhausted. It's like 3:30 in the morning, and they let us. I fall asleep on this little couch. First of all, I just want to tell you, in this birth process, nobody cares about the dad in any way, right? Zero care. I'm like curled up. I'm like a futon. I'm like back where you guys stayed at each other's houses. And I'm like been up for 27 hours straight. So we pass out for like an hour. We get up because someone comes in to check her. And this kind of goes back to, this is really, all these have a lot of infused things that you can use, is the first year resident comes in. And when you're a first year resident in a hospital, you're like really super into it, okay? So he's checking her, he's looking. We never met this guy before because, even the nurses were like, baby's going to fly out of you in the middle of the night. Also, we had this OB guy come in who looked like a very caring grandfather person, but he did not look too energetic. So he's like, hi, I'm Dr. Smith. I'm going to be the OB. I'll deliver this baby in the middle of the night. And I'm like, I try to be friendly. Dr. Smith, it really is like, I can't believe you do all this. You stay up through the middle of the night. That's really amazing. He goes, yeah. He goes, the coffee place was closed, so I didn't get my coffee. I'm like, oh, God, now we got the tired OB that's going to come in. But in my mind, I'm like, baby's going to fly out. No problem. Someone might have to catch it. Maybe it'll just be a nurse, someone walking by. So this is like when something starts to go not how you thought it was going to go, just like this happens in life in your dental practice. So the first resident comes in, checks her, and it's like, did they do an ultrasound? Which is like when you're at a restaurant, it's like, did they give you your appetizers? Like, I think you should know, right? So I'm like, I don't think they did that. So the chief resident comes in and is looking, and like, you see the first year resident, he's not as seasoned, so he doesn't have the it's okay face, right? He only has the ability to check and like kind of show that he doesn't think it's okay. I worked at a residency program for years, so I know it's not okay face. I didn't want to freak my wife out, so like the chief resident comes in, and apparently our child, I don't know if you guys have children, but they got to come out into this world with their hard head, and now she had either turned or they had not taken the ultrasound. I don't blame them, but now it was her face coming through. So then tired old guy comes in, and he's like, yeah, we got to do it. So the first year resident, chief resident, OB comes in, it's like, we got to do a C-section now. I'm like, you mean now? He's like, what's urgent, not emergent. I'm like, what kind of crazy talk is that? So I just always ask questions, but ask them nicely, right? Just to be like, I was like, what happens if we don't do the C-section? Because some people, when they have children, are really into a natural birth. My wife was not. And he's like, well, and he gave a good answer. He's like, well, her face is really going to get torn up on the way out. I'm like, well, that is a good reason to do the C-section. So I was like, okay, now I'm terrified because I'm like, I got a tired old guy trying to cut out a human. I'm like, but in my mind, I'm like, he does this all the time. He does this all the time. He's going to be fine. He does this all the time. So then it's like everything's changed gears because now I'm sitting there and like they gown me up in some thing over my clothes. And like, we got to go get your wife ready and we'll bring you in. But this is how do you not freak out? So I'm like, but I'm not freaking out on the inside, not on the outside. Like, one of those things like, I can't be to my wife like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, right? Because it's your wife. You have to be there for her. So you kindly freak out on the inside. But as we were leaving, that 15-year-old looking anesthesiologist guy said, you are so lucky to have Dr. Smith. I'm like, tired old guy? He's like, yeah. He goes, he's the fastest C-section in the city. Like, it was the Old West of C-sections. So I was like, why? He goes, oh, my friend's wives schedule C-sections with him instead of natural births because he's so fast. And it was amazing. They brought me in. So what I thought was cool is they all huddled. Like, we're going to huddle. So even though they're all like, baby's going to fly out, they were just, Pennsylvania hospital's like a baby factory. Everybody got together. They huddled. I walked in like 15 minutes later. Drew was here. And I did put a nacho sticker on her head because that's what all good dads do. But I got in there in the back, and my wife's awake, so I think that's a little scary for her, but I get why she has to be awake. And So the baby's delivered, and even the nurse anesthetist, it's like anyone going to the oral surgery clinic and like somebody who sees him is like, wow, that was a fast extraction. Because even the nurse anesthetist was like, wow, that was pretty fast. You got the baby out. So like he really showed me up, tired old guy, because he did do a good job. So why we set that up for this day? And there's Drew. It's like, you really put a nacho sticker on my head right out of into life. Why I set that up is. And this is one of the things I say, this is my core nacho thing, is everything that matters needs a system, and everything matters. So everything you do in life, in your dental office, with your patient, it needs a system. And dental school is really difficult because we take the people who know nothing, have no skills, and we make them do things like set up their own chairs, take your patients. I mean, I don't know how much dental school has changed, probably none, but I used to have to like take my patient to pay, like I'm walking her up. I'm like, you have $50 because I need these points. Like, it's crazy that these things happen. So what happened in that world was when you have systems, dentists are very rich. It doesn't mean things go right all the time. So maybe they didn't take that ultrasound. Maybe it wouldn't have mattered, but they had a system to catch everything they're going to do. And that's what I really value when a lot of people put an input. Doesn't mean everyone has to practice like I do, but we do have 2 locations with 3 general dentists, a periodontist, a dentist who does sleep apnea, and my brother and I. So we have 7 licensed dentists in 2 locations. So now we're looking at like 28 to 35 years of training, okay? Then you throw in like hundreds of years of practicing. So like, it's a lot of this. Like, does this look normal? Like on an x-ray? And like maybe it's somebody like Evan who's here, who's my awesome associate, and he asked that the first year. Now he knows it is normal. It's not normal. So when you come into an environment, you want to be able to ask people, is this normal? And you don't always have that person. So if you don't, you got to create systems. So you should go in your own life and create systems all the time. This is when I teach implants. It's very overwhelming. So I take out all the drills and I put them out for somebody and say, this is the only thing you need to put in this implant. So one of the things I like to invent is a strong word, I'd like to put together is like, when you do you see the endodontists using the endo sponges and they're like, just like taking little files off and doing the canal. You're like, I have not made the patient numb yet. Like, we're done with the root canal. But that happens with implants. It's just knowing what the next step is, knowing what the next drill is, and it's overwhelming when you see all of it. So now we've got 2 nacho ingredients. Ingredient number 3 is humans do not like to spend money on needs. So needs versus wants is a big thing. This is how people feel about needs. So I was like, hey, Daphne, you need to put shoes on. And she's like, this is how I responded to that. And I was like, hey, Mrs. Smith, you need a crown. This is a response you've gotten. Because nobody wants a new furnace. Nobody's like, hey, I'm really excited. I got to get a new muffler later, right? But what they are excited is like, this is a want. How do people feel about wants? So what is the biggest want that's like doing dentistry that nobody complains about? People love spending money on, and there's no insurance for it. And that's if you're Christopher. So Christopher is our stylist. So I have a stylist. I don't care if I call him a stylist. He's an awesome guy. This person in the chair, it's actually my sister. I'm not sure. What is this? Highlights? Somebody knows what this is, right? So when you go get highlights at Head House Salon, you do not walk in and be like, hey, do you take my insurance here? Because I only come here if you take my insurance. No. People are down there. They're wearing capes. They're drinking wine. They never want to leave. People may share the cost. Sometimes they share it in this proud way. My wife gets her hair done. It's $700 per time. I'm like, oh, I should ask my wife because I don't even know what it is. I don't check these things. So people go get their hair done. And amazingly, like, you guys have probably seen this. So I just want to let you know, people are going to just think you're a terrible dental student. Who these people are? The next set of dental students. Because you're doing this to current dental students. You look in the chart like, I can't believe this dental student from 2 years ago did this filling and it fell out again. None of my fillings are ever going to fall out. And then 2 years from now, someone's going to be saying the same thing about you. So people come in and they're upset to have work redone, right? They're upset to have things done over again. Yet, you use your mouth every single day. And this is just a good catchphrase you can use. You have 1,000 meals a year. So I like to stick up for dentistry. So if a patient says, I can't believe this crown only lasted 9 years, just say, you know what? That's 9,000 meals. That's pretty good. And it just changes the tone of the conversation. But back to the needs versus wants and why you have to embrace this. So you got into a needs-based field. And first of all, if anybody wanted dentistry, they would be getting a referral to the prosthodontist because that would just be a very strange person. Like, hey, I'm here. Can I have some fillings, please? I'm like, I think you have a psychological disease that you're going to see a prosthodontist about. But in terms of wants, how often do people get their hair done? Once a year? Once every 3 years? No, they go like 4 or 5 times per year. And one study I encourage you to do on yourself. Get out your old credit card and see how much you spend on your own hair per year and compare that to what people spend on dentistry, and I actually think people will spend more on hair. So I do say to people, one of my catchphrases, you can steal any of them that you want, is there's no haircut insurance, but you still get your hair cut. And it's just catchphrases or quick things to manage people's expectations. So ingredient number 4 is think like a dentist chef with mentorship. So we all love food, or I love food. If you don't love food, I'm not sure why, but it's just wonderful food. That's another thing you tell people. I'm helping you do your favorite thing, which is eat. And people are like, yeah, right, that is my favorite thing. And you're just trying to help them eat. I don't know why people dislike the dentist so much. You're only trying to help them do their favorite thing. And I say speaking and sharing with dentists is one of my favorite things. You guys are here. I get a chance to do it. I appreciate that. We're just sitting there trying to help people eat and they don't like it. So what can you do as a dentist chef? So GPR AGD is an outstanding transitional year to private practice. So when one dentist tells you something, don't run out and do it, good or bad. So if one dentist is like, you know what, you should get rid of your drill and just use lasers to drill. Be like, I'm going to check that with some other dentist. So I recommend, same thing here. Try to talk to dentists who've done it and not do it. And don't be like this person. It'll get to me. Dentists, confirmation bias is a real thing. You look it up. But like, if you don't want to do a GPR, just using that as an example. Let's just use a first year. You got a long road. Not ending soon. No, sorry, first years. You should be in first in line for the open bar tonight at the masquerade party because you guys need the most help. You either want to do a GPR or don't want to do GPR right now. Some of you are neutral, but you either feel one way or the other. Like my buddy Brandon, he's got nothing going. He's got no responsibilities. I'm like, come to Philadelphia for it. He's like, I don't know if I want to do that. Ask people about it, but don't try to just confirm your own bias. This is what dentists will do. If you don't want to do one, okay, you will ask 10 people. 8 of them will say GPRs were great. 1 will say it's okay, and 1 magical person to help your crazy brain will say, I didn't like mine. You say, that is the person I'm listening to. It could be the same way there. I want to do it. I don't want to do a GPR. I do want to do a GPR. This happens all the time. I mean, Spear is like, who has not heard of Spear? No one's going to put their hand up because he's like, you say Spear, it's like saying ice cream to Daphne. So he's an amazing guy. So it's rare for anyone to say anything negative, but he probably has some negative Yelp reviews about his CE. But when he has 500 positive Yelp reviews, that matters. And I actually did a really good rant on like how dentists would never eat out at restaurants if they read Yelp reviews, because if they found out like 900 people liked the nachos and 2 didn't, they'd say to the server like, could you tell me about those 2 people who hated the nachos? Like, I don't know who they are. I was like, could you give me their name? I'd like to go to their house and talk to them. Because for some reason, dental school really makes you focus on the negative. Or I'll say this, focus on the least likely. And it's better in life to focus on the most likely. So you're very lucky to hear from Justin Moody about implants. And implants for a back tooth are one of the most successful things we can offer a human being on planet Earth anywhere. So what you can do is you can give someone a whole new root in the back of their mouth. Let's talk about a single tooth implant. It's one of the most successful things you can offer anyone anywhere. More successful than hip replacements, more successful than knee replacements. But every time I post about implants, some dentist in Facebook says, what about peri-implantitis? One time in band camp, I saw peri-implantitis. And what about people who get peri-implantitis? I'm like, you negative dentist, what is most or least likely to happen? So think to yourself, what is most likely to happen if I do a GPR? What is least likely? What is most likely to happen if I go to private practice? What is least likely to happen if I go to private practice? Invest in yourself in CE early, even when it feels like you cannot afford it. So here's one of these interesting things. I can probably afford, which I don't like that word, but I can put money towards a lot of CE for myself right now. Not a ton, I'm not super rich, okay, don't get excited. But I just want to let you know, $100, not a big deal to me, okay? $100, huge deal to you. I know, I was in dental school, it's like $50. You're always like, they would have $50, I have $50, my life would be much better if I have $50. So you're always down to your last $50. But now, one of the problems is I have money but no time. And you guys are going to have time but no money. So I do want to say, like, most of you have invested in like this $100,000 to $500,000 CE course called dental school. So if you are going to go into private practice, you really probably should invest $10,000 a year, your first 3 years, in your own training. We'll talk about why. Because you get to learn things you can use forever. So even if you just learn about how to talk about implants, how to treatment plan, how to even do fillings faster. Some of it's just for your own. Remember, it's like that commercial. It's like they really pray. It's a pretty toxic commercial because it's like taking your son to the baseball game, going to the baseball game, tickets $100, parking $25, the food $75, spending the afternoon with your son priceless. Like, it's pretty toxic when you think about it, but it's a great commercial because you're like, I do want to spend time with my son and use my Visa MasterCard. So I would tell you, like, there's a lot of things you're going to do in your career that have nothing to do with money. It's better than money because it makes you less annoyed. Just getting people out of your chair faster, better. It will make you money too, but even if it didn't make you money, so if I said, hey guys, you can all work for me, everyone will make $200,000 a year, everyone's just going to work on salary. No one's like, I'd like to make my fillings last twice as long, because when you start a little arts and crafts project, you want to get it done, and that's what CE teaches you. And this is a hard one, and I was talking with some of the nice people last night. So I gave a lecture for years to residents about finding a job is a lot like dating. And the dating world has changed tremendously since I started that lecture. So usually if you want to find a job in like 2005, you're like, any hot-looking jobs? You're like, it's a crazy job, but is it hot-looking? Like, I'll date that job. But all the things we know with dating, it's like when you're brand new at dating, you make a lot of errors, right? Because your friend's like, that person's crazy. You're like, yeah, but they're kind of attractive. You're like, but they're very crazy. You're like, they're attractive, I'll try it. And you put your hand on that stove, and you're like, I should not have dated that person. Thank you for telling me the craziness outweighed the hotness, okay? So, and it could be in anything. It doesn't have to always be physical looks. The main problem with dentistry is you can't really date a job. That's the hard part. You can't just test it out. And I always say to the residents, I'll say it to them next week, because you guys are very used to like doing the next thing. Where's my application? Can I do the PASS program? Where do I apply? And there's no application for real life private practice. So you have to make it yourself. And I'll say to them, the day you should start looking for a job in private practice is like 12 months before you need to find that job. And you'll be lucky if you find a good one. But if we all had to go on dates, it's best to have as many options as possible. If they were dates that determined your financial future, not having tapas, right? So if you have a bad date with someone for nachos, you're just like, I am just going to do that thing, ghosting, never text you again, right? So it's like, I always have issues with that too. That I feel a little bad for you guys about, because back in the day, you could be like, oh, the internet broke, my email didn't go through. But now it's like, you could Facebook someone, Instagram someone, text them, so like, you can't blame the internet for that stuff. But I don't understand that. Like, this is a side note. When people are like, I don't want to be ghosted. I'm like, I would like to be ghosted. No, I don't need someone to call me up and tell me all the wrong things about me or text me why they don't want to spend any more time with me. So I don't really think that's a terrible thing. But I get it, because you want to extract yourself from this situation. And in dating, it's fairly easy, and it doesn't affect your financial future. If you test out a job, and it's a crazy job where they say, hey, we're going to pay you $100,000. One of the things you guys are way too trusting. Some people are going to be like, we're going to pay you $750 a day. You know what's going to happen when you're in that job? They're just not going to pay you $750 a day, and there's very little you can do about it. So you have to figure out, how is this job a crazy job or not, and that's difficult. But take the one that promotes the most learning up front, and it might be the least amount of money. And what about your debt? It's very interesting. Like, in the first 2 or 3 years of your private practice life, your debt shouldn't be a major decision-making factor, but I know you think it is, because it's like if someone had to lose 150 pounds, like, I'm going to go on the treadmill right now, and I'm going to do it. And it'd be better if you sat with a nutritionist and a personal trainer, and they gave you an action plan to do it over 5 years, or 10 years, or 15 years. But the instinct is to do the juice cleanse like people in Hollywood, and that doesn't work out so well long-term. So, when someone says to me, I'm going to take this job, I am like the freak out person for people. I didn't get a chance to put it in to all the slides, but I screenshot a lot of my text, but I like HIPAA-fy them, but that's not even HIPAA. HIPAA's like the worst thing ever. I always think I'm violating HIPAA no matter what. Like right now, I feel like I'm violating HIPAA. I don't know what I'm doing, but I feel like I'm in violation, right? I feel like, you're breathing, it's HIPAA violation, you might go to jail, right? I was just saying someone needed a filling, like, don't say their name. It's actually, HIPAA is one of those things that, there's a lot of good parts to it, but it actually impacts patient care in a bad way in dentistry. Because, you can't email about the person. You'd be like, 50-year-old blonde woman. I'm like, we got a lot of those people in our practice. What's their names? Like, I can't say it out loud here. she's going to get an implant. So when I HIPAA-ify these texts, I got one from like a 35-year-old dentist who's great, or 32-year-old bought a practice, and her text started out as, I had a really bad day at work. I didn't make a lot of good decisions. Can you fix my problem and not yell at me? And I like her a lot, so I'm like, okay, I'll try. You want to be in environments where people can at least help you fix your problem, whether it's remotely. And it's a lot of times not because your occlusion was high, because you can fix that. You're like, I'll show you high occlusion. Now there's no occlusion. Have a good day. Right? So you want to be with people who can respond and help you. And if you're in a private practice world where you don't have that, no amount of money makes up for that. So sometimes people say to me, I'm going to date that crazy job. They say, I'm going to take the job that pays me $175,000 a year, and this other job pays me only $125,000. And I'm like, I know the people who have this other job. Take that one. And they're like, it's less money. And I'm like, take that one. And then there's a girl right now, I wish I could bring her here on stage. She'd have to say, listen to Paul, because she didn't listen to me, and now she's leaving her job 5 months in, and it's going to impact her negatively. It's impacted her morale, and I told her not to take this job. It was no different than the horror movie where, like, don't go in there. You're like, I'm going to go in there anyway, right? It was the exact same thing. As soon as she was telling me about this guy or girl, whoever you want to date, it's no big deal now in 2018, whatever, whoever it is. But as soon as I hear the words, I'm like, that's a crazy job. And she's like, I want it. I'm like, it's a crazy job. Don't take it. And now she came to me with that proverbial tail between her legs and like, fix my problem. And I fixed it, and I got her a different job. But she would be in a better situation if she had not taken that job. So managing debt, just don't freak out about it the first few years. Figure out what your minimum loan is and think about learning, because you can learn something at a good job that you can use for the next 30 years. Ingredient number 5, talk to patients like people and magic will happen. So you guys talk to people like other dentists, and in general, I don't know if you notice, people don't like dentists, and you use words that only a dentist would understand. So I talk about implants and nachos, because everybody likes those things, and nachos will unite us all here. This is me talking to the residents in where we talk about case planning and things like that here. So RTTs we talk about at our residency program. I talk to any dentist, and this should be in a first-year dental student, right? Like I never understand why they're like, we can't teach first-year dental students about business or non-clinical. We got to focus on other stuff, other important stuff, like the Krebs cycle or the kidney. Never been in a situation where the Krebs cycle has gotten me out of a jam. Millie's like, I hate my denture, I hate you. I'm like, Krebs cycle? Like, what are you talking about, right? This is how we should be training young dentists, okay? So, I know it's hard to see here to some degree. You can have a lot of these pictures. There's going to be you can email Evan for a PDF of this. You can just enjoy listening to it. I know dentists are like, I better write it down right now. Better just to listen. So this is what I start off with. This is what they just teach on the first day of dental school. It will change how dentists talk all the time. There's only 3 things that can happen to a tooth. Okay? You can teach this to anyone. You can teach it to your child. You can teach it to your parent. It doesn't require to be a dentist. There's only 3 things that can happen to a tooth. And RTTs is our catchwords for remember these things. So here on the left side, it's everything that matters needs a system, and everything matters. You've heard that. Always be managing expectations. This one falls into explain the why. Make the best decision in the moment based on the most updated information. So that's what is helping me talk to this person. So people are like, have you ever heard people talk like this, and they're like, Dennis, the natural tooth is the best thing ever, right? Better than world peace? Like, no, I'll take number 20, right? It's way better. The natural tooth, it is the best thing ever. They brainwash you into thinking this. You know who doesn't think the natural tooth is the best thing ever? Your own patients. They're just normal people. Could you ever think that orthopedic surgeons are sitting around, be like, did you have to remove a natural knee? Like, oh God, I did. I had to do it, right? They don't do that. Like, oh, your old knee's messed up. You need a new knee. Stop crying about it, right? Only dentists would be like, and we have 28 natural teeth. So one of them has to be removed. I'm like, you can focus on the 27 best thing evers you have. But how do you talk to patients about problems? And it should always be set up like this. 3 things that can happen to a natural tooth. Or your tooth, Mrs. Smith. It can get a cavity. The bone can shrink. Or it can break. And break has two parts. The top part can break, or the bottom part can break. Those 3 things, which has 2 in it, are you looking at a patient that has a cavity? Okay, don't say caries to a patient. Are you looking at people that has bone shrinking? Don't say bone loss. No one really knows that. Are you looking at a patient that has had a tooth that has broken, the top part or the bottom part? Because when the top, well, actually I said the base part. That's like a grandmother's. Like, stop skateboarding, you're going to break your bottom. I'm like, all right, okay, I'll stop. So base part. Top part, you might be able to fix. You can sometimes fix the top part. But I didn't want you to throw all these crazy clinical things out of left field. When the base part of a tooth breaks, can you fix it? Who thinks you can fix a broken base of a tooth? Anyone? You want to say you can fix it? It's not fixable. You cannot fix it. So you just got to say to a patient, hey, I say this, we have not invented anything to fix this. You know what the patient says? Can't you just glue it back together? Like, oh yes, after all these years of working, I forgot about the magic tooth glue. Appreciate you reminding me about the magic tooth glue. Thank you, Millie. So now you frame this conversation away, and everything I tell you here today is just for one reason as dental students. So all I want you to do is make it seem like you know what you're talking about, even though you have no idea what you're talking about. And you know this, I've only been good at like 3 things in life. One was being like a restaurant server, and I was always the one who had to train the other servers and follow me around. It was a great system, much better than dental school system. They'd follow me around and we'd talk, and I was telling them last night, like, I would let them be a little bit. They'd be over at a table. I'd be like, oh God, they're messing everything up. I got to walk over. Because you know this, as soon as you sit down at a restaurant, you're like, could you tell me about the additions? They're like, I'll be right back. You're like, this girl does not know anything. And you're like, could you get a more experienced server out here? And it's all because of words. So in our New Dentist Boost Camp, we talk about training your hands, your words, and your mind. And dental school really does not focus on the words at all, and the mind part a little bit, and they focus on your hands. But one of the things I tell people is like, I'll talk about, could we incorporate some business training? And they're like, well, we got to really teach them how to do crown preps. I'm like, yeah, you got your whole life to practice crown prep. I got good news for you. You're going to get it. Because if you're a general dentist and you're going to go out there and dentist, which is my word, or dentisting for 30 years, you're going to be able to take that burr and move it around the tooth, round and around, okay? It's going to happen. Don't want you to be too excited. You're going to be good at it, maybe even great at it. But what you may never be good at, because I hired a 70-year-old, he was never good at talking to patients, and he never made any real money because he could not explain things to patients. So they just don't focus on, this has become very popular. When I was 16 years old and you wanted to work out, you'd be like, I'll go do some bench press and bicep curls, and then I'll go eat a lot of, like protein-based food. And that wound up being a terrible way to exercise. Now you guys are all the recipients of all this Pilates, core training, balance training, and now people want to look a lot different because they realize that was a terrible way to train your body, to just have a giant chest and arms and nothing else good on your body. And that's like dentistry. It's like constant bicep curls of the clinical stuff, but you guys can't even get the bicep curl right. You're like, I got it wrong again. So you should do some bicep curls, core activity, and cardio work, and that's what we try to do with the residents, with my own associates. So now we're in ingredient 6. I always ask this, so this thing says 46 minutes, Brandon, I got 75 minutes or so. Is that a good time check? Hey, it's like, how much time we got left this appointment, Brandon? That's what I'm asking. 45 minutes? Oh, nice, look at that. See, I'm happier, it's longer. Unlike a patient, like when they ask that question, it's not a happy question. No one's ever like, you're never at the massage, getting massage, like, how much time is left? Hurry up. You're like, I'll sit here forever. I don't have to go back to my real life. It's fine. But your patients, when they ask that, this is one of my quick things. So when people ask a question, when people say there's no stupid questions, that person was very stupid because there's a tremendous amount of stupid questions. But people ask you these, and you're like, my friend one time, they got a filling and their tooth got ruined, blah, blah, blah. You know what you say to them? This makes you seem likable. Everything's about being likable and credible. Not going to lie to you guys, you all look like you're pretty young. None of you look credible, okay? 0 people look credible out there. And old people, they don't even know how old people are. This happens to me too. Because if you made me guess some of your guys' age, I'd be way off. So they guess me like, hey, Paul, look at you. What are you, 25 years old? I'm like, thanks, Millie. I'm 41. How old are you? She's like, 90. So what happens is, this happens all the time. They don't know how old you are, and they just are aggressive. Like, remember, you don't have to say everything that goes on in your mind for you, but other people say those things. So you just say, good question. I would want to know that too. So that is a great little break because you're going to get a lot of weird questions. Your whole life is about weird questions, okay? Weird questions from your patients, weird questions from your team, just weird questions. And when you get asked a lot of weird questions, and this happens as parents too, like one day, it's like the classic one, Daphne, like, well, how did I get here? I'm like, good question, Daphne. I would want to know that too. We'll talk about it later, but it makes you seem likable. It just gives you a little break in the conversation. So that's just one of my nacho tips. So ingredient number 6, just raise your hand if you get this reference. Back tooth implant restorations are dragon glass. Who gets that restoration? Raise it high, okay? So in modern day masterpiece Game of Thrones, if you don't watch it, you should watch it. It makes me feel very dumb because I've watched it like 5 times and I'm just like, oh, why is that person getting thrown through that thing? And I have to go through my phone, but it's a great show, and they talk about these zombies coming, White Walkers, and what can defeat them is this dragon glass material. And so in my world, I talk about insurance, when we're talking about is really, are those zombies? And it's more than just insurance. The zombies are powered by a lot of things in dentistry. Insurance, consumer expectations like Amazon, and remember, you're a person too, and sometimes you are extraordinarily cheap. So when you go on Amazon and you want to buy protein powder, it doesn't really matter if you buy a $40 bottle or a $30 bottle. You assume it's the same thing, it's a commodity. But dentistry is a service. So don't compare dentistry to a commodity when you're talking about value. You can compare it to a car when you talk about how long it lasts. But remember, you guys all, I'm just going to use an example. Just raise your hand if you're totally cool getting your hair cut I'll say, okay, I was here in Omaha, I was walking around, we're all going to get haircuts afterwards, okay? I got them, good value for us, they're $29 each. Who wants to go? So very few people want to go. I know some people will go, some guys, it's fine, you just get like the straight buzz thing, that's no problem. But I see some complicated operations out here on the ladies, like this took a lot of work, right? There's a lot of things there. I say this all the time, people, like, if you get a bad meal, you get food poisoning. So I'm like, all right, we're going to get sushi. My wife loves sushi, okay? We'll get sushi. It's all you can eat. It's $14.99. You guys want to go? Nobody wants to go. But worst thing that can happen is you get food poisoning. If you get something bad at a dental office, it could be worse than that. It's not a judgment on the dentist, because if I had to work in a place where I only got 20 minutes for a crown prep, they would turn out very, very bad. So it doesn't have to do necessarily with the dentisting person, it has to do with the expectations on it. That's one of the most important things about finding that crazy job. If you want a quick tool, because you'll remember some of these things like memory burn, when you're at a job interview, you're listening, and you're saying, that's a great place, blah, blah. You just say, normally, it's a good question. Like, how you ask questions. Don't be like, how long do you get for a crown prep? Like, that's aggressive. If someone asks me that job, I'm like, I'm not hiring you. But if they said this, normally, I see you have a lot of dentists here, how long do dentists schedule for crown preps? And if you hear this number, I can tell you from that number if you should take the job or not. Because if you hear a number like, 30 minutes, or hear a time of 30 minutes, don't take the job. They have unrealistic expectations. I use this example. Everyone here has been to Taco Bell. It's usually between the hours of like midnight and 3 a.m. And you're like, you know what to expect. You never walk into Taco Bell and like, I'm here for my reservation for 2. It's my anniversary. Because you know what to expect. Then you go to Chipotle. I love Chipotle. I go there with my 4-year-old. You get your stuff at Chipotle, right? And then you just walk over to one of the whole thing is like silver, right? It's great for messes. You just go make a mess with your 4-year-old, no one even notices, and their food is better than Taco Bell. And then in my town, if you ever come, you can come to Elvez. Rapali hopefully knows. Rapali, you been to Elvez?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it's a wonderful place.
I love it.
That's high-end Mexican food, so people know, when you go to these things as a consumer, but people don't know as a dentist. So the way to defeat or at least manage the White Walkers is with back tooth implant restorations. Justin hopefully is going to talk to you about implant placement. But WIIFM should be something that you write down and think about every single day. WIIFM is what's in it for me. So if I said, hey, do you guys want to take an implant class with me? I have to WIIFM already. So if you say to a patient, hey, do you want to come to the dental school for 20 hours to get one denture? You better WIIFM them really quickly. Because no one's like, I do not want to do that. So WIIFM is what's in it for me. So this is just a piece of my implant lecture, but when I tell dentists, this is what's in it for you. Restoring a back tooth implant is a low-stress chairside procedure. It's like a 1 out of 10. All you have to do is know how to use a screwdriver. Fortunately for this part, it's the most money you can make with one procedure. So you can do a class 2 composite, or you can restore a back tooth implant. A back tooth implant is 10 times the money of a class 2 composite, and let's just say it takes the same amount of time. So you would want to do as many of these as possible, because some of you have get out there, and you got to go to dental. So one of my starter questions usually when it's not dental students is, who wants to be happier? Everyone wants to raise their hand. Who wants to make more money? Everybody raises their hand. So keep your hands up. Said, who's okay if you work more hours to do it? Every hand goes down. So the only way to make more money in the same amount of time is do more productive procedures. And I'm not too dramatic about dentistry, especially back tooth implants, but at least it's rewarding. Because I hope none of you guys are waiting for this, because no patient's ever jumped out of the chair and be like, Paul, Thank you for doing this 18 occlusal composite. I'm ready to tackle the day. I appreciate all the care, skill, and effort. Like, are we done yet? Right? How do people act about restorative dentistry? They act annoyed. That's basically how they act to be in the chair. One of my little catchphrases, you guys could use this. This is a very good one. You have to use things that make you seem likable. And you have to use things that make you connect with the patient strong. Everyone's like, I need to connect with the patient. You just need to be cool with them. They don't have to be your best friend. But I say to them, if you could drop your mouth off like your car, it would be easier for both of us. Oh, jeez. Be easier for both of us. So, patients can't drop their jaw off like their car. It's a little light moment. They get it, because you don't know what your mechanic does to your car. I could drop my car out and be like, look at this guy, Paul. He's got goldfish in here from 2 years ago. That is true. So, not real goldfish, the kid goldfish. So sometimes my daughter exhibits things, like your kids. When you have kids, it's like kind of like you would, probably your instructors feel. Sometimes they feel like, Bob, he's got it together. He's a good dental student. He's doing good work. And then the next day, Bob does something, and the instructor's like, he probably should not be a dentist. So my daughter, sometimes exhibits an amazing vocabulary for a 4-year-old, because she said, we can't paint Drew's nails. They're going to irritate her nails. I'm like, how'd you learn that word? You're smart. Then we went to the car. She goes, can I eat this? It was a goldfish that had turned from orange to pure white in color. So what kind? She's not smart. She's never seen a pure white goldfish. So you don't know what your mechanic does when you're taking, but you just show up like your car's ready because you went shopping or you went to the coffee store. So at least these are things that are low stress, high revenue, and rewarding for the patient and the team. So this is just a piece of my implant talk, but it can be for anything you do. So this will change your life. Does anybody here raise your hand if you would like to produce millions of dollars? Some of you are just in it for the love of the game. You're in the love of fillings. It was what you were meant to do. I was meant to take bite registrations and take them over and over again. I was meant to find centric relation. Here's a trick. It's impossible to find. No one knows what it is. Right? There it is. So I'm going to ask again, who would like to produce millions of dollars? Raise your hand, like I said, who would like free nachos at the end of this, okay? So some people don't want millions of dollars? You don't want millions of dollars? Or you'd like millions of dollars? Dennis, you understand, this is not TV. I can see everybody out there, right? I lecture all the time. This is how Dennis, I'm like, hey, I'm here to lecture for 8 hours. I'd like to connect with you. It's like your patient who won't open. That's exactly what it's like. It's like a patient won't open. You're like, this is not how this works. You're like, could you open, Mrs. Smith? You're like this. You're like, oh, God, I should have practiced sports more. I should have been better looking. I can't believe I chose this career. So I went through this. You want to make millions of dollars and produce it over the course of your career, because I have case studies, dentists who've taken this 10 years ago and have added $100,000 of production to their practice, so they've produced $1 million more, and they can keep producing it, and none of it has to do with using the screwdriver, and none of it has to do with making a flap, and none of it has to do with suturing. That is the easy part. The hard part is explaining the why to the patient. So we have a patient, they're missing number 30, it's all the information you're going to get. They're just missing their lower right front tooth. And this is really the gold, and John Coyce taught me this when I was actually not much older than you guys. Changed my life forever when I heard him speak at the Hinman. People don't accept solutions to problems they do not have. So I'll use this example. Does anyone out there have a Roth IRA? Have one, okay? So like 3 or 4 people, okay? So here, I'm going to be a dentist explaining to all of you who do not have Roth IRAs why you should need a Roth IRA. You guys sat in the front. I appreciate it. What is your name here? We're going to use you as an example. Alicia, okay, Alicia. Alicia, you don't have a Roth IRA. You need a Roth IRA. Why don't you have a Roth IRA? A lot of people have a Roth IRA. Roth IRAs are really good. You should get a Roth IRA. I do Roth IRAs all the time. A lot of my other people I know have them. Do you want a Roth IRA? Does that make me more likable or less likable? Likable. But that's what you guys are doing about your crowns, because you're all geared up. It's like the people at the gym. You're like, tone it down a notch when you're trying to get me signed up. Very funny Family Guy on that. So you're doing it, you don't even realize it. If I took a video of you, you'd be like, who's this jerk? It is you, right? Because like, you need a filling. If I don't got a dental school, I don't know what I'm going to do. You need this filling. You need this crown. So instead, what happens if you do nothing is a Coyce thing. So hey, Alicia, I want to tell you about Roth IRAs. But first, I just want to tell you what happens if you don't get a Roth IRA, okay? So if you don't get a Roth IRA, when you're 70 years old, 70-year-old Alicia, you may live in a cardboard box. Could I tell you about a Roth IRA? Totally different feeling of likability. Totally different feeling. So hey, you're missing a tooth, Alicia. I'm just going to tell you what happens if you do nothing, and this is the magic. Even if you decide to do nothing, we can still be friends. And you laugh, because nobody wants to be friends with their dentist, but it just breaks the momentum, right? No one's like, hey, I'd like to go to the movies with you on the weekend. So here are the things that can happen if you do nothing. First, this happens. Anyone know what this is called? Yeah, I just would prefer, could you do me a favor? Could you just never say super eruption again the rest of your life? Not even to each other, okay? It's a dumb word, okay? You guys talk about it like, does anyone know what that means is a bad thing? They do not, because I'm glad you're sitting down, because what if I said, who's behind Alicia here? Brown hair, what's her name? That's you, yeah. People look around like, do I not have brown hair? Yeah. What's your name? Sarah, yeah, just need names just for fun. So, like Sarah, I'm glad you're sitting down, because if you do nothing, just want to let you know what's going to happen. Mesial drift. Okay? No one knows what this means, so you have to reframe it as, hey, Alicia, if you decide to do nothing, we can still be friends. One thing that can happen is the tooth above it's going to fall down. Why does it fall down? Your teeth act like friends. You have friends, right, Alicia? I hope you do. So if you were missing your friend, you'd go looking for him. So your tooth is like a friend. Totally different feeling. This is like a whole lecture itself. Tooth behind it, you only need 9 words, is going to tip over, okay? No one's ever been in a situation where something's tipped over. It's like, glad that's happened. Because when you have a 4-year-old, lots of tipping over in your house. It could be expensive. It could be messy. Usually it's both. Okay? What else can happen? I'll ask my buddy, my namesake, Paul. This one's not as bad. What do people call this? Your dental school instructors tell you to call this? I told you this before, actually. This one's fairly easy. What's going to happen to the bone here? It's going to go away. Yeah, bone shrinks. Fall down, tip over, bone shrinks. This is how systems work. You can't remember 15 things, and then this is, I say this. Okay. Paul, what's your favorite sports team? Or what's your favorite sport? This is Dennis. Dennis loved to ask questions. I said, do you like lunch? I don't know. I'm not sure. I've had it 40,000 times. All right, I won't pick on Paul. Ask Rupali. Do you like any sports, Rupali?
Sure, we're college football.
College football. Perfect. See, now I always say something in the dental office, and just even with you guys, like that make you feel more positive. So what's your favorite college football team, Rupali?
Well, I went to Northwestern, so go Cats.
Northwestern. So how many people play on a side in football?
What?
How many people play on a side of football?
A lot.
7.
So how many people play? Who wants to give them the right answer?
11.
Right.
Got him.
So 11 people play. So you guys, you've seen football, and imagine, this happens in soccer. It's like soccer, sometimes they start kicking people out. Like, you've been a very bad person. You better sit in the sidelines or your team is going to play without you. It's a real thing in the World Cup. People just start kicking each other in the face for fun. So your team, imagine if your team had to play with 10 guys, Rupali, or 10 people, they would get very tired and they would break down. So your other teeth will break down. Fall down, tip over, bone shrinks, other teeth break down. So if you just went back and said, hey, you're missing a tooth, is it okay to tell you can I tell you what happens if you do nothing? And even if you do nothing, we can still be friends. And you say those 9 words, magic is going to happen. Do not say any other words. Don't try to do your own spin. Don't be sitting there being like, I don't like bone shrinks, I'm going to say something else. Just do the system, and you try out the system for a while and see what happens. And you can apply that to anything you do with a patient. Oh, hey, your tooth is broken here on the top part. Here's what happens if you do nothing. Bugs can get to the inner part of the tooth. More of the tooth can break. And then in the moment, when you forget all this stuff, just say, like, pain, swelling, infection. Usually that's something. Hey, if you do nothing for this cavity that's into the inner part of your tooth, pain, swelling, or infection can happen. This is what they should teach you. And they should teach first-year dental students so that you can practice saying this, because I just said, what happens if you do nothing for a Roth IRA, Alicia? And now you actually probably want to go look it up, right? Because you guys should have Roth IRAs, because Roth IRAs are a good way to save money for when you're 70 years old. One of my major messages is, we don't really, don't make your 70-year-old self unhappy because your 28-year-old self didn't make good decisions. We do this all the time with ourselves. I'm sure some of you are sitting there at the now and be like, I should not have had that 9th drink at the open bar. Who made me do it? It was me. Darn it again. I have full of myself. So this is actually a screw retained implant. So that person has to say yes to it. Say, okay, I'd like to hear about an implant, or whatever you talk about, bridge, partial implant. This is not, I don't have time for all of it today, but then they're going to get the implant placed by some human being. Maybe it's Justin Moody. It doesn't even have to be you. Get good enough at talking to people that you can refer people all around the dental school. When you're in the real world, refer them to a periodontist, refer them to an oral surgeon, because then they come back for your dragon glass, which is restoring an implant, which is one of the easiest things to do. People, I don't know how to teach someone how to restore an implant. I'm like, do you know how to teach someone how to use a screwdriver? Because if you do, you're done with teaching them. It is the one thing that is low stress, high revenue, and rewarding. So here's a patient. She was 86 years old. I placed and restored this implant. I'm not sure if she's alive anymore. She was kind of a cool but crotchety lady. Every 86-year-old, they got, like, that's their whole thing. Like, how cool versus crotchety are you? It's like 95% crotchety, 5% cool. She was like 50-50. So this is an implant crown I did on her. It's in a good spot through the central fossa area, which I would just like to call in the center. Like, they just teach you the weirdest words. It's like, same when, like, are you guys learning about 3D x-rays? You're probably not, but if you are, it's like, you're probably learning these words, which I don't understand. It's like, can you look at the anterior sagittal view? Could you just call it the side, right? We're going to look from the side, right? That's how people learn things, okay? So it's like, we're going to get the implant through the central fossa. Through the center, same word, okay? Don't use your dumb dental words. And this is the seating jig, which I talk a lot about in Dental Nachos, which is just one of the best things ever. But why is it dragging glass? So I told you the why, explained the how, and now I'll just finish at the end with something, for not for the lecture, but this point, which is really brings in the why. So if I was talking to, like, Paul or Alicia, which part, like, Paul, are you concerned about your other teeth breaking down? I want to focus on, okay, hey, if you don't want your other teeth to break down, this solution is good. Hey, you guys might be sitting there being like, I hear what Paul's saying. I might want to learn about implants, but I also love RPDs. I'm like, you are not learning a lot about MySpace right now, right? So it's glad you knew, it's good that you knew MySpace existed, but now it's more Instagram. So now I will use the most powerful thing to you. Who out there is afraid of your debt level or scared of your debt level? It's going to be almost everybody. So if you're afraid of your debt level, this is why I actually advocate for dentists becoming specialists a lot, because right now specialists are not as influenced. Some of them, especially periodontal surgeons, buy insurance, so their procedures are not adjusted down as much. This is our specialty procedure. It's hard for you guys to see up there, but the average production per patient on an implant restoration day in our office for a GP, this is not every day, this is the day you're doing well, we have plenty of other days, is $813 per patient. Do you know what the average production per patient for a regular GP is doing full contact arts and crafts? About $250 per patient. So that means you have to see 3 human beings for every one here. So just make as many of those days for yourself, make as many days like that for yourself as possible. And in the dental school, I bet you, like, are implants still implant crowns still like a lot of credit, like more than regular crowns? No, that's a shame. In Penn, they were when I was there. It was a good trick. I want to get that. So it all starts with learning how to talk about it. All of you guys can use words. Go back and use those words and try to restore as many implants as possible as a dental student and carry that on to the next phase. Ingredient number 7, build relationships with people in your physical and virtual dental neighborhood. So Brandon called me up. He's like, can you come to lecture? And I'm like, for free? He's like, no, we'll pay for your flight. I'm like, no, I can't, it's not going to work. I can't say to my wife, like Mrs. Nacho, I'm going to leave these 2 small humans for 4 days so I can go hang out with Brandon. So I got some companies to support me. How do I get these companies to support me? It's because I built relationships with them a long time ago. And I've supported them and they've supported me. One of the biggest problems we have, and I think this weekend is awesome, is we think people who want to sell us stuff, it's scary. But it's not. Are they selling you a life preserver or are they selling you a scam? So a lot of times in my dental group, sometimes I'm trying to recommend people buy things. It has no impact on me other than helping you. And they're like, what's your scam, Paul? I'm like, no scam, just helping. Like, sounds like a scam. I'm not going to take your scam. So be open-minded, because when you build relationships with people in your dental neighborhood, physical and virtual, like Design for Vision who's here. This is one of my favorite products you'll meet later, Ketenbach. It's an alginate substitute. There's other ones. And this is Care Credit. This is our financial form if you ever want. So we give people options. I have a management coach who's just amazing, Carol Kivler. And this is really a great tool for life. I'll just tell you this. This will help you. This will help you probably today. So I was like, hey, Alicia, we're going to get free wine after this. You're like, all right, but I don't know if I really want wine. I'm like, hey, Alicia, we're going to get free alcohol. Would you like wine or margaritas? It's a totally different feeling. So people don't argue with their own decisions. So if I say to Daphne, you're getting M&Ms, even though she likes M&Ms, she's like, why is my dumb dad deciding for me? People hate to be decided for, right? Why are you deciding for me? We're not walking. Well, it's snowing outside. That's why we're deciding. Like, you're not going to decide for me not to walk in the snow. So say to somebody, if I say to Daphne, you know what, Daphne? This actually happened on Halloween, because, like, she goes crazy. It's like kid happy hour. And I'll say, okay, you can have a Kit Kat or M&M's before you go to bed. And not high-level parenting, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But so people don't argue with their own decisions. Back to our financial form, if you come to our office and you need to pay $5,000, $1,000, $2,000, you have three options. Pay in full and get a courtesy or a discount. Stretch it out over the course of treatment, or use care credits. So care credits is sponsored me here. There are people in the space that help people pay for things. I encourage you I wish I actually did more of this myself. Like when there's opportunities for you to learn from companies at events, not just this one, it's worth it to talk to each company and just say this. Really, it's crazy, okay? I hope you can handle it. What do you do for dentists? And then just listen, because I've learned so many things, and I've missed the boat on different technologies, because I'll be at the Greater New York Dental Meeting, and I'll do the same thing that I advocate against. Someone will be like, hey, doctor. Whenever people say that, I'm like, I'm not a real doctor. Okay, so it's like, when they're like, hey, doctor, could you come over here and talk to me for a minute? And sometimes I'm resistant because I'm going for like the free popcorn, when I should just stop and hear what they do for dentists, taking out loans. And you guys are going to learn a lot as dental students in this sort of practice world, because it's going to happen to you whether you know it or not. You're going to need to work with these people. And Evan will tell you, ask Evan, my brother and I can easily have to deal with 15 different companies in a day as dental practice parents. And that's just not an easy thing to do for someone's brain. So if you know what they do, it just gives you leg up. Also, it is a design for visiting, but I wish I bought more loops in dental school, because that is the thing that never goes bad. You always need it. And I did a good poll on this. How many people regret not buying a second pair of loops in dental school? And almost everybody. I would buy, actually, I'm not joking. I would ask, it's a weird Christmas gift. Like, Mom and Dad, can I have loops for Christmas? Like, that's a weird gift. But it's going to be something you use forever, because watch how crazy dentists are. I have friends. They're insane. They're my own friends. I'm stuck with them, but they're insane. They have one pair of loops. They produce $4,000 in a day. If their loops break one day, they've lost more than what their loops bring them. So loops are like spit-up cloths when Drew's around. Like, do we have 5 of them at all times? So at least get yourself a backup pair, because you usually get some aggressive student discounts, which do go away. I mean, it's very interesting. Dental students are great. Everyone feels bad for you. It's very nice. Real dentists. I can have a CE course just like this. I could charge this room of real dentists $1,000 to be here. I can take these dental students and be like, hey, they're all going to go for free. They're like, you should. Those people have it tough. So it's like, I don't mind. I got 19 of them sponsored for an event. It was Paul's twin, Thomas Grass, came. They're like the same person, Paul Thomas. I don't care. I'm not going to call me. You have to answer to both names. So people feel bad for you. Take advantage of that. They feel bad for new parents when you're having like children when they're young. Can I hold them? Can I help you? That's like you. People feel bad for you. Take advantage of it. A couple more things to go through before we get to our end point. Brandon, where are we left in this appointment? How much time left? 20 minutes? Okay, perfect. This is really important. Okay, so who here's heard of dental school instructor, top chef, or seasoned dentist? Say, you know what? You should strive for excellence out there. You should strive to do the best you could do. Now, the best you can do, I'm okay with that, because the best you guys can do is fairly mediocre. So I'm okay with striving for your version of the best. But they really mess you up, because in our office we have a catchphrase, strive for clinical goodish first. Is what you've done goodish. So I'm going to use an example of how this works in your life, because you want goodish, okay? You're going to go get your hair done for the next ASDA event for Paul. There's like, every district is there. All the districts. 72's there. So you want your hair to look good for that event, okay? You be a guy. I like my hair. Look this. I like my hair to look well. Look good. Do you want the best? Raise your hand if you want the best haircut, the most clinically excellent hairstyle your stylist could do. Raise your hand. Some people are lying. So if all of you want, no, some of you don't want to. Let's try again. It's not TV. Who wants the best clinical haircut they can get? In a way, okay, good. Who's okay? Keep it up. Keep it up. See, you guys are good. Now, who's okay if it takes 7 hours? Okay. So that's your patience, by the way. Sometimes they're like, oh, this young person's trying so hard. I wish they would just try a little less hard. I got stuff to do with my life, right? So, you need to strive for it. So this is our associate at our PPO practice, and this is awesome. Somebody comes in with a broken tooth, and she fixes it in a goodish way for a PPO price. Because again, this is like back to the open bar. If you went tonight and there was an open bar, you'd be like, I'd like the old fashioned with the highest level bourbon. They're like, that's $19. You're like, I have $4. Can I get that? They'd be like, you could leave. Okay. So they never teach us this. That reimbursement for that restoration, she actually did an amazing job. There's no more time built into practices like that. You can't go to Taco Bell and you can't go to Elvez with a Taco Bell budget. Doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't mean there's a judgment. But you got to strive for goodness first. Because here, has anyone seen The Greatest Showman? It's a good movie, and the soundtrack is great. So we have a lot of that going on in our house. I went to a Greatest Showman party. So there's a bunch of 4-year-olds, and then now people have second humans. I got a second human. My second human was just doing human things. That was Drew. She needed to be cleaned up, so I had to change her. So I go in this other room during the Greatest Showman party. My wife actually takes a lot of great pictures, so I got my 4-year-old there. I'm like, she's a nut, so I'm like, I don't know if she's going to stay safe. So I had to get her clothes back together, and I did clinical, goodish parenting, because I don't know if you could see, that button's not done. But I was in that moment, I was like, this is the best we're going to do, Drew. Because it was fine. It was goodish. Not going to fall off her. If you guys does anyone try to put these things back on them? Like, the more expensive the baby clothes, the more difficult it is to apply the baby clothes. Like, we have buttons from the 1920s. Can I just have Velcro? Velcro's fine, all right? My child doesn't, no. So if you miss one snap, you're way the hell off. So that was the problem there. This is a really important one. We're going to get through all 11 ingredients in our 18 minutes left. So this is a very important one. And this is one that you need to really embrace. People that love you sometimes give you terrible advice. So people that love you sometimes give you terrible advice. Why? Because they're emotionally invested in you, and that can be a big problem for business decisions. So this is us down the beach. This is Vivian. No, it might be hard to see. She is the one in the front. Behind her is my small human, Daphne. Does that look like a safe way to come into a home? So we're at the beach, and I said, could you guys come in for dinner? And what they did, this is me over here, and of course I'm like, I just want to let you know, like, how, maybe I want to call myself special. Unique, that's what I call people. Sometimes people are like, Paul, you're weird. I'm like, I think you mean unique. Like, weird. I'm like, I think you mean unique. So I saw this. Just you have to realize how this happens. I saw this, and I didn't say, I better make sure they don't fall first. I said, I better make sure I take a picture for a lecture, because I'm not going to be able to get this moment again. So I said, come into the house. Vivian went around my car. I made sure there's no other cars around me. Climbed up on top of here, which is like the size of her. Daphne did the same thing. So people that love you will give you terrible advice. And Vivian is giving Daphne terrible advice. So I do a lot of buyer coaching, which I actually love, because I say, I am here not to care about your feelings. I'm here to care about what makes sense. I'm not here to care about your feelings. I'm here to care about what makes sense. When you ask your spouse or you ask your friend, I mean, how you're the same person. How much are you willing to annoy yourself to help your friend? So somebody's going to put on an outfit tonight and say to their friend, how does this look? And the friend's immediate reaction is be like, it does not look good. But I know my friend didn't bring anything else. So what am I going to say in this moment? Should I lie? Okay? Or should I tell the truth? And you're like, it looks pretty good, right? Because you don't want to annoy yourself. So when people ask me about practice, I'm like, it's a horrible practice. Don't buy it. Like, I want to buy it. I'm like, it's terrible. Like, I want to buy it. My friend said it's good. I'm like, yeah, your friend doesn't care about you. I care about you. So you have to remember that when you ask for advice in life. So if someone tells me my instructor said GPRs are no good, I don't think you're a good decision maker, because it's okay for your instructor to say that, but I want you to tell me what a 30-year-old dentist says, what a 40-year-old dentist says, what an 80-year-old dentist says, what somebody on Facebook says. Create a poll in dental nachos, because don't look for that one person to confirm what you already want to think. This is very important. So Evan will send you, there'll be his email. You can get the PDF of all these ingredients. Just to walk you through this one for a second, this is a terrifying one. It really is. So, the submitted amount for this procedure from my dental office is $356. So I have decided, I'm not the most expensive dentist in town, I don't know who is, but I create systems to decide what to charge, and you guys all know, when stuff doesn't sound normal. If we went there to that open bar last night, like, open bar's open, and they're like, all the wine is $3 per glass, you're like, I don't think I want it. They're like, all the wine is $50 per glass, you're like, that is too high. They're like, all the wine is $9 to $11 per glass, that sounds normal. So this $356, I'm not even telling you what it's for. Don't ask if it's for a filling. Don't ask if it's for a cleaning. They approved $180. So that means that the insurance is like, thanks for submitting your fee. We don't agree with it. We're going to approve $180. So what happens to that remaining $176? It gets adjusted off or evaporated into thin air, and we have to do the procedure for $180 if we're in network. So what's in network? It's a Bed Bath & Beyond coupon. So this will change your life. Just call insurance a coupon forever. So when your patient's like, what's my insurance cover? I'll be like, I think you mean what does your coupon cover? Words are so meaningful. Nobody goes into Bed Bath & Beyond and is like, I'd like all the unnecessary trinkets for free, please. It's 20% off. Okay? That's how insurance works. But unfortunately, it's over 50% off. So call insurance a coupon. So if the patient gets a $356 charge and we're not in network with this one insurance anymore, what's even more insidious and challenging is they say, hey Alicia, sorry guys, or hey Sarah, now Sarah, you say, your dentist wants to charge you this is what they're saying, your dentist wants to charge you $356. We've approved $180. Who seems like the bad guy? The dentist seems like the bad guy. That pricing for that procedure is literally from before 2000. So what we're doing there, that pricing is from before 2000. So if you took someone from before 2000 and said the wine was $11, they'd be like, why is this place trying to rip me off? Now it's normal. So network savings of $200. See how they say network savings? There's no savings. The dentist is just throwing it away. That's how they're saving. The dentist is throwing it away. So now the plan is going to pay $160. So if, let's just say this is a cleaning. Hey, Lisa, you can come to our office. You've never met me before, but here's your first visit, blah, blah, blah. Your coupon will cover $160. Please call it a coupon. You have to pay $200. Sarah, you can go to an office where your coupon covers $160 out of $160. You have to pay $0. Which sounds better? But sometimes it's the $14.99 sushi, and patients don't know. And it's very, very difficult to share that with them. It's very difficult. The way you can start in a 75-minute lecture is just call insurance a coupon. Simple as that. Hey, what's my insurance cover? I think you mean your coupon. Because dental insurance is not insurance. Insurance is you wreck your car, you pay $1,000, they pay $20,000. Insurance is you have a small human being, the hospital charges $70,000, you pay $5,000, they negotiate with the hospital $20,000, and they write off the rest. That's insurance. This is a coupon. This insurance gap is really a concern, and this is our practice. So the gap between what we charge and what insurance is reimbursing, it's getting higher. Okay. Over here, I made a change in this practice. You can ask me about it later. We became more fee for service. But in 2005, it was pretty close. In 2015, it's further apart. So what's crazy is insurance is paying less, but it's becoming more expensive, more costly to run a practice and become a dentist. So that's a problem. So I use this example. I don't know if you guys started nachos. Who is legally obligated to hang out with another human being for the rest of their life? Which is marriage. Okay? That's your marriage. You're married. So what's your name here?
Eric.
Eric, what's your wife's name?
Lisa.
Lisa, so is she a dentist?
No.
That's nice. My wife's not a dentist. She's a normie. Okay, that's nice. Normie. You're married to a normie. Go home from this and just say, hey, Lisa, I was at a lecture. I'm just going to love you 80% as much as I did last year. And when she throws her shoe at your head and be like, it's still love, that's what insurance is doing to dentists. They're saying, it's still money. Like, yeah, not as much money as we should be paid for these procedures, but this is all, dentists don't like each other, we can't collaborate, we're not allowed to collude, we wouldn't be able to collude if we tried, but we don't collaborate, so this is a concern. And the final ingredient is one you may have heard before, just be nice. So I don't know if anyone knows who this person is, Gary Vaynerchuk. So Gary Vaynerchuk and I think a lot alike. He curses a lot more than me. He's an amazing entrepreneur. He has built wine businesses. His book, Crushing It, is something that you should listen to. You guys would love it. It's all about how you utilize social media in your business, how to utilize it to grow things. But being nice is ROI positive, because being nice is how you get things in life, because people remember when you're nice. And I'll just use this example. All of you guys have friends, and if I said, I'm going to give you guys 2 tickets to come to our event, May 31st, paid. You don't have to pay for anything. We'll pay for your flight. This is not going to happen, by the way. But we'll pay for your flight. We'll pay for your nachos. We'll pay for you to sit there. You can ask one friend to come with you. You can ask one friend. Immediately, you think of 2 people. And you think of one, and you like them both, but one person's like, would say this, Sure, when's the event? I'd love to be there. The other friend's going to be like, is it on a Friday? I do Pilates on Fridays, but maybe if it's on a Thursday, I can go. And you're like, I'm not asking you, because they're not as nice as the first person. So people like to deal with nice people. This is me at one of the boost camps, and my catchphrase is, just be nice to each other, dentist. Your future is depending on it. So I really believe that. And it's funny, it's become like, this is a dentist who sent me a text message, a nice one. I get a lot of mean ones, by the way, a lot of mean messages. But I'm practicing JBN. That was great. It's like, I'm practicing it. You're doing good things for dentistry and helping out a lot of people, including myself. So if everybody else doesn't like us, we could just be nice to each other at least, right? We're in this together. So when you see something from another dentist, think, I wonder how that happened, instead of that person stinks, because you're doing the same type of work. And the way a clinical procedure turns out is 95% related to how difficult the patient is. When somebody is easy, you know this, you can do a great job, they'll sit there all day. When someone's like, are we done yet? I got to take my kid to soccer. I'm like, fine, I'll rush through your dumb kid's procedure and do it badly. That's what I say in my head. Remember? It's like I do it in my head. But I do say to patients, moms say, like, we got to get out of here for karate. I'm like, this is a filling. I'm like, do you want me to rush? Like, well, don't rush, but we have to be done by 9:30. I'm like, you don't know how words work, Mom? But that is my last message. But I always like to be unique. Dental nachos, just be nice, less TSD. We're going to skip through a couple of these things and give you guys, make new friends and keep the old ones. So this is actually Daphne and Vivi having ice cream. This is me and my new friend Todd Fleischman from Dental Nachos. We went and had beers. That's like our ice cream. He's part of the new Dentist Boost Camp now. And, so be unique. You thought there's going to be 11? There's a bonus thing which will bring us into the last 5 minutes. Things that manage your expectations. Everything that matters needs a system. Everything matters. But your bonus tip is to buy as many extra water bottles for your office and your home as possible. You should have them on you at all times. So when you're in the office or your chair, have 3 or 4 bottles of water. 2 reasons. Maybe you offer someone a 20-cent water. That's nice. They're sitting there for 3 hours for your bite rim. That's nice to have a free water. But even more importantly, who has been in scenarios where a human being in front of you is crying and you're like, I don't know how to get him to stop crying. Does anyone have that happen? You know what doesn't work? Stop crying. That just seems to make more crying. So I was here with my 4-year-old, and it was Mother's Day, and Mary was at a massage place, or getting her hair done or something, manicure, whatever nice thing she should be doing. I was with Daphne, and we were supposed to go for brunch, so she had an entire bowl of goldfish, and I said, you can't have another bowl, but we're going to go to brunch. And here is her reaction to that. What happened? What happened? Oh, real quick. Can you drink this water real quick? Real quick. Oh, drink it real quick. Just try. Come on, try. Real fast, don't wait upstairs. Real fast, sir. Real fast. Try. Good. And breaks her momentum. And this is something we've used many, many times. It breaks the momentum. So I've given these type of lectures I love. So I was at a dental student at Penn for 150 dental students one time in Poly. And I came back for a second lecture, and a guy came up to me. I will never forget this. He was like, I used that water trick. It is so good. Carol Kidd would talk to me. I was like, oh man, did you get your patient to stop crying? He's like, no, my fiance. I'm not even a dentist. So you're going to use this. I've used it on, and you actually can use it on yourself, because crying is such an emotional thing. It's very hard to get you to stop. So if you take a picture of this, Evan will send you a PDF of the 11 ingredients. And I didn't know how much time I was going to get through typical with me, but I do want to just show you that I don't win all of my battles. This is one on buying a practice that I can either give on a webinar. But the end part is just to show you that even though I got Daphne to do this, sometimes later I'll give you some parenting advice and dental advice is you got to choose your battles and try not to lose them all, because systems are not about not having things go wrong. They're about knowing what to do when things do go off script. So please don't even say wrong. Just say, oh, has things gone off script? Because when you say wrong in front of someone, they already think, if Brandon comes up, they're like, hey guys, things have gone wrong. The nacho guy ranted too long, and we're going to miss something. So we've gone off script. People are like, okay, tell me more. We're going to bring something else. But this is my last thing I'll leave you guys with. You take a picture of this. This is, you grow your, so just associates or aunts and uncles of a practice. So does that look like a right way to hold the baby? That's my brother. He's the uncle. So your associate takes care of the baby, but he's more concerned about going to the gym and his coffee. and the last thing I'll leave you this slide is that you do want to pick these battles, and they are little battles, but when you know what to do and how to solve them and what to do when you're freaking out. So who feels like they're going to be able to freak out a little bit less after they leave here? Anybody? That's good. Who feels like they know how to be a happier person, happier dentist, by annoying yourself less as you go through this journey? You've got a long life, long time to dentist. If you call me up and say you're not going to do a GPR, that's okay. I don't know if you're going to call me up. But what I'll say to you is at least tell me why. At least explain your why. And sometimes your why doesn't make sense. And that's what you should tell your patient sometimes. I don't want to do an implant because Martians are going to attack me. That why does not make sense. I don't want to do an implant because I got to send my child to college and I can't afford it right now. Maybe that makes sense. That makes sense. So as a parent and dentist, it's important to pick your battles and lose them all. Dr. Nacho, number one dad, because look at this face. The face is like, I won. There's more goldfish in that bowl. But less than before, so I'm less annoyed. So I only gave her a few. So this was awesome. Thank you guys for your time. I really enjoyed it. I'll be around the whole day and later, so have a good rest of the time.